So just to, uh, bring it into one perspective, right? How do you typically go on about doing a job evaluation, right? So uh, first is obviously you need to identify the purpose, right? We need to build a case either with our CHROs or head of rewards that, hey, I need to do an evaluation, right? Once you have been able to, you know, uh, identify a strong uh, need or purpose, you need to constitute a committee, right? What does this committee do? There are three or four things this committee does, right? One is this becomes the custodian of the entire process for sure, but this also ensures that relevant stakeholders are reached out. Uh, Sufficient information is given to whoever is evaluating so that there is no inherent bias. This committee also kinds of keeps a check on what is the methodology which has been applied to evaluate roles. So this becomes kind of a watchdog, right? And this committee also ensures that relevant stakeholders have been aligned with the results of job evaluation, which could be your CXOs, key N-1 roles, key N-2 roles, because you need to keep the leaders um, uh, in loop, because whatever changes you are going to do post evaluation, you will drive in the respective teams to these leaders. It's very important to get a buy-in, to get them in a room after the evaluation, during the evaluation, to show the results, whether intermittently or towards the end, so that you have a perfect buy-in that these are the outcomes of an evaluation, and this is how your world is going to change, right? So it's very important, right? Otherwise, no matter how good a job you do at evaluation, if you don't have the trust, if you don't really have the buy-in of key stakeholders, most of the times we have seen job evaluation exercises leading to nothing, right? So it's a sensitive exercise because it leads to change or, uh, you know, uh, uh, de-pegging or up-pegging of roles. So it impacts real-time people. So it's very important to sensitize the key outcomes that one can expect and how it changes their world, right? So this is a very important task. At the start of the exercise, we should be very clear who are those people who is going to drive this throughout the exercise, who is going to align, who is going to take the bind, who is going to enforce or implement the kind of outcomes of evaluation through the teams, right? So this committee becomes very important in that context. Identification of jobs. This is again a very important exercise, which I, as a consultant, whenever we do job evaluation with my clients or have done with my clients before, at times clients don't have any idea about, okay, who do I evaluate, right? So identification of unique roles becomes very important, because let's say I'm evaluating a 5,000 odd organization, right? Strength of 5,000. I don't need to evaluate all 5,000 roles, right? I need to understand which are the roles which are unique. And there are several, methods of how do you say a role is unique or not, right? We apply one of those methods, right? So let's say 5,000 comes down to, if I take a 10% thumb rule, 400 to 500 roles, right? So let's say for an organization of 5,000 kind of strength, I will end up evaluating close to 400, 450 roles. But that is a very extensive exercise where we need to know which are the roles I'm evaluating. At times, because maybe we don't have so much time, we're all busy in our work, and it's difficult to take out uh, uh, such high bandwidth for the entire team to kind of evaluate 500 roles. So at times, what the approach we take is we don't really evaluate all the unique roles. We evaluate, let's say, 30-40% of the unique roles, right? So let's say there are 500 unique roles. I will evaluate close to 250, 300, and I will job slot rest of the them. We'll talk more about it when we come to uh, the methodology of job evaluation. What this does, it saves a bit of time, but it does give me enough evidence to say that hey, I have evaluated your 250 to 300 roles. This is how the stack comes like. Now, basis my understanding of roles, now I will slot the rest 200 unique roles basis relative ranking between the unique objects of points of unique roles that I've evaluated. Right. So that is what we call slotting. It is placing roles in betweens without actually doing a job evaluation on them. Right. So at times we have taken that approach. Ensure availability of job description. Yes, there needs to be some source of what the job content is, right? So either a write-up, uh, uh, job description, if it's updated at times, job description is we need to be careful about it. Job descriptions at times are very outdated. It was written 5 years back. Nobody has bothered to change it again. The role is doing something very different from what is written in the description, right? So it's always important to validate that whether my description matches to the output that is currently getting delivered through the role. Establishing guidelines and select appropriate methods. We will talk about a couple of methods today in this session. So it's very important to align which kind of method will work for my kind of an organization, right? Uh, no method is right or no method is wrong. It's the context which is important related to the organization, right? Some work better for certain kind of an organization. Others might work certain better for certain other kinds of organization, right? Job scoring and score validation. Yes, once you score, it's very important to validate and revalidate sample roles with key stakeholders like, excuse me, like your CXOs, like important leaders in the company who understand, who have a company-wide view of roles. It's important to validate these with them so that you get a sense check of whether you're proceeding in the right direction or not, right? It's always good to have in between checkpoints to see whether you are proceeding correctly instead of just doing everything and then reaching out to them to see whether you have done a good job or a shoddy job at it, right? Implementation. It is very important because job evaluation, as I was mentioning earlier, it's a very sensitive exercise. It impacts people, mobility, compensation, placement in grades, hierarchy. So it needs to be driven very carefully. The outcome that you need to achieve needs to be explicitly called out before you undertake an exercise like this, because at times, if there is an org-wide evaluation taking place, it can build a bit of anxiety in the organization, right? So it's very important to implement what you set out to achieve in a manner which doesn't really boil the ocean and impacts productivity of people, right? Periodic review. Periodic review means if you have had sufficient changes in the way you do your business, or you have sufficient number of, let's say, in a 5,000 organization example, which I was taking, let's say you've added, and there were 500 unique roles. Let's say you've added over the last 2, 3 years, 50 more unique roles, which did not exist 2 years back, which means now you have 10 to 15% extra unique roles. That could be one trigger for me to say, hey, I will evaluate these roles and maybe few roles from my earlier universe to see how my stacking has changed or could change, right? So typically we advise our clients to, it's not an yearly exercise, but definitely a 3 to 4 year kind of a period is when you should start thinking of whether I should maybe do not a full-fledged, but maybe some bits and fractions of what I did 4 years back. Maybe it's a good time to relook at how my org is keeping up with the kind of outcomes that I implemented post my last job evaluation. So I think 4 to 5 years is the sweet spot to kind of periodically reviewing whether the evaluation outcomes of last time are still really being productive for your organization or not, right?